Hello, my name is Lionel Simons. I'm English. I was born in the UK and I helped found AIESEC in the UK many years ago. And my task then was to affiliate with the international group, of which there were about 9 or 10 countries at the time. And so I set about setting up AIESEC in some dozen different universities over the course of a year or two. I actually not only founded AIESEC, but I brought it into the international organization. And I took a delegation of 12 to the international conference in Rotterdam, and we became fully involved and became a full member at that time. After Rotterdam, I became the leader again for the next Congress, which was in Paris. The Congress after that was in Italy, and I was chairman of that Congress, and then I immigrated to Canada. And in Canada, I set up AIESEC again because since I was there working in between my undergraduate degrees, which I did at London School of Economics, I wanted to do some practical experience before I took my master's degree at Columbia. In the meantime, in addition to helping set up AIESEC in Canada at McGill University and the University of Montreal, and then 7 or 8 universities across Canada, I also dropped down to New York to help the boys at Columbia get the United States going. And eventually, when I went to Columbia to do my MBA, I took over the role of Latin American Extension Coordinator, and I sent correspondence out to just about every university I could find in Central and South America, and arranged for people like Victor Lowenstein and the people from Spain to go there and visit and help get these countries set up in Latin America. Then, once I graduated, I then went on into an entrepreneurial career, and I'll come back to that in a minute, because I then chaired the Congress in Princeton in 1963, and at the end of that Congress, I took the whole delegation, the leaders of the delegation, down to the White House to meet with President Kennedy, and I think this was one of the highlights of AIESEC up until that point. Now, we were there. By that time, we were up from 9 or 10 countries to 20, 25, because my principal concern was to make AIESEC available across the world to as many countries as possible with an experience that would be available on whatever sort of a basis, so long as it met the AIESEC rules, an organization run by students, for students, without interference from government or student unions or any other outside body. And I'm glad to say after all these years it has worked very well. In the meantime, what did it do for me? I tell you, it made me an entrepreneur, because doing AIESEC is like setting up your own company. You have to run it. You've got all the activities of a company, which means you do the marketing, you do the funding, you do the personnel management, and it's like a microcosm of the business world. For me, as an individual, my interest was in building my own companies. And I have since then become a serial entrepreneur. First of all, I built a company in the ceramics business with about 1,000 employees and hand-decorated stoneware, and I had about 150 girls hand-decorating stoneware. I created the stoneware dinnerware market in America, and we were the world's leading manufacturer of stoneware dinnerware. Then I moved from that business into diagnostic imaging. I was one of the pioneers in diagnostic imaging with my company, Dunn Instruments in San Francisco, which I built up to a personnel force of about 150 until I sold more than I could make and I merged with another company. And then my third career, so to speak, has been since then in environmental engineering, rather environmental technologies, and I now specialize in technology transfer from the UK to the US and to China. I've spent many years in China, and that brings me to a case history that I think is fascinating. In 1968, in 2008, there we go, 2008, I went to the Olympics in Beijing. I rented an apartment. I helped from 2002 on. I was involved in working with the Chinese AIESEC committee, which had just got started, and I had an office in Beijing for many years, and I used to work with them. On the occasion of the Olympics, I had a spare ticket, and I went to the AIESEC National Committee and asked if there was anybody that would like to go. And a young lady said yes, and she went with me, and she asked me what she could do, whether she should stay with AIESEC. I said, AIESEC's a wonderful opportunity. You get to learn how to manage a company. You get to develop your own capabilities, your leadership capabilities. You get to meet with a lot of other very bright and interesting people, and you should go for your local committee, you should go for president, you should go for as high as you could get and make it a sort of mini career within the university. 4 years later, in the Budapest conference in 2012, at the end of the award ceremony, China was awarded one of the top awards of the day, and a young lady was invited to come and accept the award. That young lady was the president of the National Committee. That young lady was Maggie Ma, and that was the young lady I mentored 4 years earlier during the Olympics. And I think that was a wonderful story to see how she took the bull by the horns, and she made a fantastic career, and then she went on to work for the General Secretary and is now working for a company in Hong Kong. I think that's an absolutely wonderful example of what AIESEC can do for students who are motivated.